Welcome back, guys. This is episode 5 of Mountains to Mainstream Sports. It is finally Selection Sunday. We're about 3 hours past the revealing of all 64 teams that made the tournament this year. I guess technically 68 if we're counting the first 4 in. But for this episode, this is going to be our March Madness special. Me and Peyton's going to be sharing the screen with you guys, reviewing our brackets, telling you our thoughts about each team, different players that are going to be in this tournament. And we actually also are going to have our own bracket challenge posted. I'm going to let Peyton talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the bracket challenge, there should be a link in the description of the video on YouTube, as well as the post that we're going to share on Facebook should have the link as well. Just click the link. It'll take you to the ESPN Tournament Challenge, where if you've already made a bracket or if you want to make a bracket, you can just throw one in, title it your name or whatever you want to title it. That way we know who you are. And then whoever the winner is, we'll give them a shout out on our page on Facebook as well as the next episode. So hopefully we can get quite a bit of engagement. We can look at everybody's brackets and see what everybody's picking. So with that being said, we're going to just jump straight into it and share our picks.
All right. So I want to start by sharing my screen and sharing my bracket. Obviously nothing filled out quite yet. This first game here, we're not going to waste much time. We have Auburn against the likes of either Alabama State or St. Francis. We're not going to talk too much about that. I think everybody, 90% of the country is probably going to choose Auburn for this matchup. But what we will talk about is this 8-9 matchup between Louisville and Creighton. 2 big-time players for each of these teams. You got Kalkbrenner for the Creighton Blue Jays, who's averaging nearly 20 and 10. I like him as a center in college basketball. As a big-time lob threat. Can stretch the floor a little bit. Then you also have Chucky Hepburn, who is a big-time scorer for the Louisville Cardinals. As far as looking at notable results, notable wins for each of these squads, Louisville's beat Clemson twice, actually, which I will say that is impressive. Beat Pittsburgh by 4 once. Then you look at the side for Creighton here. A win against the underwhelming Kansas Jayhawks this year. Beat UConn a couple times. Took a kind of a bad loss there to, I shouldn't say bad loss because St. John's is a great team, but I'm just saying a loss with a large score margin there to St. John's. But taking all that in consideration, I think for this matchup, I'm going to go with the Creighton Blue Jays. I think the ACC is a weak conference this year, other than Duke, and I just think Creighton is probably a little more prepared for this. And I'm going to stop sharing and kind of get yours pulled up here.
Yeah.
So me and Peyton's kind of had some technical difficulties today, so bear with us just a little bit here.
Yeah, we've had quite a few hiccups trying to get these brackets to work while recording ourselves here, but it looks like it seems to be working a little bit better than it has been. So like Andrew said, we're just going to go ahead and click Auburn, not think too much about it. Pass, go, collect 200, whatever you want to say. Just go ahead and lock that one in and then take a look at the Louisville versus Creighton. As Andrew said, we've already, talked about some of the key players. Chucky Hepburn just recently had a big game winner. I really like him. I'm looking for him to be a big level player, even in the NBA. That being said, I'm going to have to go with Louisville instead of Creighton. This game is going to be in Rupp Arena. I think you're going to see a little more red than usual in Rupp Arena. And just due to the fact that it's going to be a little bit down the road, I think that could just be what little bit of edge Louisville needs. I expect it to be a close game, and I think any advantage that either of these teams can get would be the edge, and I think that'll be the edge for Louisville. But moving on from that, a game that I've been looking forward to talking about pretty well much the whole recording, and then this is of course right off the bat, is my first upset of the tournament. You can go ahead and lock in UC San Diego. They're going to be a Cinderella story coming into this. This is their first year of eligibility, even in the tournament. They're a 3-point shooting team. They've got 2 high-level scorers. I think Jones is going to really bust some brackets this year. And Michigan, like this says, they play a simple brand of basketball, and I just don't see, though this is just the perfect recipe of a 3-point high-scoring team going against your pick and pop Michigan team, and I really like what has seen from them. 30 wins is nothing to sneeze at. It doesn't matter where you play, what conference you play in. So give me San Diego.
All right, so I'm going to switch back to my screen momentarily. All right, so now we're back to my bracket here. And as we talked about, we've had some technical difficulties a few times trying to make this work with our screen share. And I'm not even gonna lie, Peyton. Let's be transparent with the audience here. I've picked Michigan the last 4 to 5 times we've tried to do this.
Yeah.
But your explanation of the way this team plays basketball and shooting a lot of threes and so on almost had me convinced to pick them. But then I look here at Michigan, and I really take the big wins against Wisconsin, Maryland.
That 1-point win against Maryland really doing it for you, huh?
Well, Wisconsin's a team to me.
59-53 shootout. Yeah, give me the high scoring Tritons.
Well, like we said earlier as well, I mean, although they're high scoring, and I'm not taking away, anytime you're 30-4, I don't care what conference you're in, it's a big accomplishment. But you can also see here that they've kind of been beaten up on the Anteaters a couple times. So I think I'm going to play it safe and go with Michigan for this pick. Moving on to Texas A&M and Yale. Wade Taylor for the Aggies has been, seems like he's played there for 9 seasons almost. Yale, I think they are, this is back-to-back years they've made the tournament. But just to keep it short and sweet, I think my SEC bias is going to step in a little bit. Not really biased because this is a 4-13 matchup, which, we see these upsets every once in a while. But I just think the Aggies are a veteran team, a lot of experience coming into this tournament. I'm going to make the simple pick of going with Texas A&M.
So, like Andrew said, I'm also going to keep it short and sweet. I think Yale is going to be a tough opponent. I know they play tough brand of basketball, but I'm also going to take Texas A&M. SEC is just so tough this year, and they have 14 out of 16 teams in the conference in the tournament for a reason. And so, with that being said, I'm just going to take Texas A&M. I'm also going to go ahead and take Ole Miss in this next matchup. I know that UNC and San Diego State are both decently good teams. Actually, I don't think North Carolina should have made the tournament. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I do not think that they should even have a chance to be in. And I think San Diego State's going to show them that ball don't lie. But anyways, besides that, I'm just going to go ahead and take Ole Miss here. Not too much to talk about, and I'll let you give us your pick on that matchup as well.
Okay, so moving on into my picks for this 6-11 matchup between Ole Miss and potentially either UNC or San Diego State. There's a lot of – I do think North Carolina is going to win that first 4-in game against San Diego State. But, there's a lot of people upset that North Carolina made the tournament. Which I could see why. I'm not sure if they're actually deserving. They're actually like 1-15 or maybe 1-16 in quad one matchups this year. But that being said, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier to you, I always feel like when UNC makes the tournament as a lower seed, they just kind of get a hold of that March Madness magic a little bit. So for those reasons, and even though I really like Ole Miss being an SEC team, I'm going to go with UNC to upset the 6th-seeded Ole Miss Rebels. And so, moving on.
I don't think I agree with that, but
Well, that's why we have a podcast, Peyton. Moving
That's true.
on into our next matchup, we're going to look at Iowa State and Lipscomb.
Finally, some uncharted territory for both of us. This is the furthest we've made it in this recording.
Absolutely, and that's a good sign that we probably finally get through it. But looking at this matchup here, Lipscomb actually does have a guy that averages 20 a game, 8 rebounds. I'm not going to try to butcher his last name. But, Iowa State, notable wins. You got Marquette, Baylor, Kansas once. Also took a loss to Kansas as well.
Also lost to Kansas. Now, personally, I think this one has upset written all over
it. I think me personally, I want to play it safe and go with Iowa State.
And I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with that, but I actually am going to pick Lipscomb as the upset on this. All 5 of their starting 5 take a high percentage of 3-pointers. I think all 5 of their starting 5 has made 33 pointers. And they just cause a lot of issues for different defenses. They're not a very big team and they're not a very deep team, but they have a lot of older players. And I just think that they have the recipe to be one of those teams that just comes into this tournament, has like a Jack Golke type player that just comes out and picks apart one of these higher seeds and kind of makes that Cinderella story run. So I'm going to take Lipscomb here as another upset. And I've had quite a bit of upsets. And I don't know if you can call a 7-10 matchup quite the upset, but I'm also going to take the Lobos here against Marquette. They have another 20-point scorer, and then they've got Nelly Jr., but they actually seem like the more impressive team to me than Marquette. Even just looking at their record, they've beaten a lot of high-name teams. Beat San Diego State, which they also just recently lost to them as well. But Marquette has just taken so many losses recently to St. John and to UConn and Creighton, and they've just been picked apart, man.
Time out just a little bit, though. I noticed you said the Lobos here have some good quality wins. Other than UCLA, who am I looking at here that's a good quality win?
VCU is in the tournament. They put up a good fight against St. John. San Diego State that's going to beat UNC, and they're going to be in the tournament. So
yeah. Okay. Well,
they also average over 81 points a game. So I'm just, I'm an offensive type of guy when it gets to March. So I'm going to take New Mexico here.
Okay, and I know we've been doing a snake draft, but why don't you go ahead and round out this side of the bracket?
Yeah,
here.
I'll go ahead and round this one out, and this is not going to be an upset at all. I'm going to take Michigan State. I actually think they're one of the tougher teams to beat in this tournament. Tom Izzo comes into the tournament, and he always has that little bit of magic in him when the calendar flips over to March, and usually, the past couple of years, they have not been as high as a 2 seed, and they still find a way to win. And I just think that they're a lot more talented this year, and I'm going to have to take them in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that's an easy pick to make. So, with my bracket pulled back up here, looking at Marquette and New Mexico, I'm going to disagree with you there, and I'm going to take the easy pick of Marquette. And also, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you why Bryant has a chance to beat Michigan State, because they quite frankly do not. So, moving on, would you like to go into the East region or just keep going down the line in the West?
Let's go.
All right. So, another very simple pick to make. We got American or Mount St. Mary's getting to play Duke. Although we're unsure of what Cooper Flagg's playing status will be like, I don't really think it matters. You could probably play the last 5 guys on Duke's bench, and it's not going to matter. So let's just go ahead and put the Blue Devils into the next round, as bad as I hate to. I wish they'd lose every game. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about this one before we switch over to yours. Or actually, this is yours, isn't it?
No, this is yours.
This is mine. Okay. And so Mississippi State, Baylor, I'm a big Scott Drew guy. I'm not even gonna lie. When Kentucky had a coaching change there of the offseason, I really wanted Scott Drew to take the Kentucky job. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm happy with Pope, but I wanted, I did want Scott Drew to have that job. When you look at notable results for the Baylor Bears here, it seems like they decided to throw a lot of their losses in the way, or in this, little description. Looking at Mississippi State, they did beat Texas A&M handily once. I do like that.
No love for the Big 12 from the ESPN Tournament Challenge, I see.
Yeah, it doesn't look to be. I will say Josh Hubbard is a very special scorer. That guy will shoot it from anywhere. She also had VJ Edgecombe for Baylor. Yeah. Probably a guaranteed lottery pick.
Top 3 pick in the draft, probably.
Yeah, but I think my SEC bias is going to let me pick Mississippi State for this matchup. So let's flip back over to your bracket.
And then just to go ahead and get it out of the way once you get it pulled up here. There we go. Yeah, so I'm going to have to agree with you here. There's no even reason to waste time on saying why Duke is going to win that matchup, but I'm actually going to let my Big 12 bias get in the way here, as it always does every year and destroys my brackets. But I'm going to take Baylor just off the fact I think they've got the best player in this matchup in VJ Edgecombe. I've enjoyed watching him play this season, and honestly, I'm just taking that pick just because I want to see him play a little bit longer in March. But moving on to the Oregon versus Liberty matchup, Liberty has had a very, they have a pretty good team coming into this. They have a lot of decent wins, and they have wins against, I believe, Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Tech. Their notable win column isn't that great. But that being said, Oregon's is kind of wishy-washy. They did beat Alabama early in the year, but they've taken 2 losses to Michigan. I can't pick against Oregon in this matchup, so I'm going to pick Oregon. Liberty is not one of those teams that screams upset to me this time around, so I'm going to play it safe, and this is going to be a win for the 5 seeds this time around.
All right, and I
was trying to talk myself into Liberty there. I don't know if you could tell, but I was just looking at their wins, looking at their team, and I can't do it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. And I think I agree. I don't really see them as being one of those 5-12 upset contenders this year. So I'm going to go Oregon just because I mainly agree with everything you said. Looking at Akron and Arizona, Akron with a 28-6 record.
Yeah, they haven't lost since the year turned over to 2025 either.
Yeah, and then you look at these games, you got, Princeton, Ohio, Miami, Ohio, Kent State. Meanwhile, Arizona's playing the likes of Duke, Baylor, Houston, Texas Tech. Tough. I think this does have potential to be an upset game, but
I agree with you here.
Personally, I think I'm going to go a little crazy, and I'm going to go Akron.
And you know what? Once we get it over to my bracket, I think I'm going to agree with you here. I think Akron does have just that little bit of potential. They're averaging 85 points per game. I know, like you said, they're beating up on the Kent State Golden Flashes here, but tournament time, anything can happen, and I just think that this could be one of those matchups. Now, moving on to BYU versus VCU, this is going to be one of those matchups where you're picking defense versus offense. You've got one of the best offensive teams in the league versus one of the best defensive teams in the league in VCU. And I said earlier, I usually lean offense, but this time around, I'm going to stick with defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to actually pick another upset here in VCU. VCU's defense is very good. They rank top 30 in steal, block rate, 2% and 3% defense. They have multiple 6'10" big men. You know, they have 4 seniors coming into this, and I just really like what their roster construction is. I know BYU is one of the most hot offenses here, but I'm going to go ahead and take VCU in this matchup.
All right. And for time's sake, Peyton, I'm going to have you go ahead and just go through these final 3 games in the East region. So while we're on your break, I'll have you go through those last 3 there.
So I'll go ahead and make the easy pick here. I'm going to take Alabama over Robert Morris. Not much to talk about there. We'll talk about Alabama a little bit more when we talk about who I think they're going to go up against in St. Mary's here. I think St. Mary's just outclasses Vanderbilt here. And so, I'm going to go ahead and pick St. Mary's in that matchup. And then above that, I'm going to stay safe as well and take Wisconsin.
So get those 3 out of the way there. And I want to stop, go back to my screen. So to quickly round out the East region for myself, I'm going to go BYU personally. But I will go Wisconsin. I will go Alabama. And I think I'm going to let SEC bias creep in for the 17th. Let's go with the Commodores from Vanderbilt.
That SEC bias is going to eat up your bracket.
It may, but I'm going to let it fly. Okay, so what I want to do, Peyton, we're going to go into the West now. And for our viewers listening, Peyton is really big on doing these podcasts the best of our ability, and I'm also, but it is 11:19 currently, and we are up doing this. Just to let you know how dedicated Peyton is, he is currently mid-school at Marshall, and we are up doing this. But I'm going to kind of cut some stuff short here just because I'm ready for bed. But nonetheless, I'm going to go these top 3 games here, Peyton, and then I'll let you do the top 3. So I'm going to go.
That sounds like a better way, anyways.
I'm going to go Florida. And not just to kind of skip through this, but I mean, not much to talk about Florida and Norfolk State. UConn, Oklahoma is something we can discuss because these 8-9 matchups are very interesting. I will say this: Jeremiah Fierce for Oklahoma is an absolute dog. He will be a lottery pick guaranteed. As far as me being a Kentucky fan, I'm not gonna miss a game. But as far as watching other teams this year, a player that I really liked that stood out to me was Jeremiah Fierce. Dude's a hooper. But it's hard to count Danny Hurley out. They're looking for a 3-peat actually, even though they're the 8th seed this year. But this one I'm very torn about this. It's hard to count Danny Hurley out, but I'm telling you, Jeremiah Fierce is the real deal. But like you just said, do I let SEC bias get me again? And I think I will. So let's go Oklahoma. Memphis, Colorado State. We will be looking at, let's look at notable results for Memphis. They did beat UConn and Michigan State, as well as Clemson, Ole Miss. Colorado State losses to Ole Miss, San Diego State. Not too many notable wins for them. I'm going to go safe pick and go Memphis. So that being said, let's flip it back over to you.
Yeah, and I'll do the same thing as you, except I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and give you all of my picks for this first round in the West. Like Andrew said, we are up pretty late trying to run through this for you guys. That way we can get it up, get it edited, and get it to you guys in the best way. And hopefully we also don't want this to be too long of a watch. We want everybody to be able to watch it in a timely manner. So that being said, Florida, easy pick here. I don't see any 16 seed upsets this year. It's like 1 and I don't know how many at this point. So I don't see any Virginias on this. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Florida. And then on the 8-9 matchup, I agree with everything Andrew said. I think Jeremiah Fears is a stud, and I think I'm going to pick Oklahoma in this matchup. Next matchup, Memphis, easy pick for me. They have a high octane offense. They've had a lot of great wins, and I just do not think Colorado State has it in them to be the upset this year. Moving on to the next matchup, I think one of the teams that's going to make a run to the Sweet 16, if you want to call that a spoiler, is Maryland. I think Maryland is a great team this year. 25 wins, and they have one of the best players in the nation in Queen. They have a lot of pretty good wins. They beat up on Illinois. They beat Ohio State. So I am going to go ahead and pick Maryland for that matchup. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and pick another upset here in Drake. Drake has won 30 games. They've only lost 3. They have some stud players, and they might end up being a Cinderella story this year. They beat up on Miami. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Kansas State. They've had a lot of actually pretty good wins. And, Drake is one of those teams that just comes into the tournament past couple years and makes a difference. And so they have a very stout defense. They're allowing less than 60 points per game on average. So I'm going to pick Drake here. Moving on, Texas Tech, not even going to talk about it. Should be an easy win for Texas Tech, I believe. I've just been looking at UNC Wilmington Seahawks team here, and nothing really stands out to me other than the fact that they've beat up on the Charleston Cougars quite a bit, it seems. But Texas Tech has one of the most explosive offenses in the nation. I really enjoy watching JT Toppin play. He's one of the best players in the nation, and so I think that they go ahead and get the easy win here. Now, 2 games I have been wanting to talk about, and I know Andrew's wanted to talk about, so I will try to keep it as short as possible. But I see Arkansas and St. John's winning these next 2 matchups, and well, I'll just let Andrew talk about that when he gets to it in a minute.
All right, so let me flip back over to my screen. And Peyton's right. This is something I definitely want to talk about. Okay, so really quickly, and I know this is going to be some disagreement between us, but I do want to say this about Grand Canyon. I think first of all, I think that Coles and Grant Foster both are high-level players. I think they could be 2 guys you see in the transfer portal going to somewhere larger next year. They did beat Stanford. Other than that, not too many notable wins, but I've watched these guys play a couple times this year. I like the way they play. I'm going to go with Grand Canyon with the upset. I'm also going to go Drake with the upset. Like Peyton said, 30 wins this year. I think I love how they play the game. They share the ball, shoot a lot of 3-pointers. It seems like a recipe for every Cinderella story. Then we'll go Texas Tech, just an easy pick. And now I just want the audience to realize and I'm not picking these yet, I'm just saying if Arkansas advances here and St. John's here, you have the battle of the former Kentucky Wildcat coaches, John Calipari, as well as Rick Pitino going head-to-head. Unfortunately, though, as much as I'd like to see that, I think Kansas takes that game as well as St. John's beating Omaha. So I think that will be the matchup going into the round of 32. Now, I'm going to scroll up here, and which we've already done that for the... Yeah, I guess we already done that for the East, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through my Midwest real quick, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet on, Houston, obvious. Let's scroll down. I'm going to go ahead and take Tennessee. It's an easy pick. UCLA, Utah State. Preview. Okay. Utah State, not seeing much there. UCLA has beat Arizona. That's big. Gonzaga, that's pretty big. Lost to North Carolina, though. Ugh. Even though I think North Carolina's going to make a little bit of a run. Gonzaga, I think I want to stick UCLA there. Everybody knows who I'm picking there. No need to explain. Illinois or Texas / Xavier. That's a hard one. Let's scroll back up. I'm gonna go the Zags. Clemson is too good. I think they should be higher than a 5, honestly. Purdue. I want to say Texas pulls this out. Trey Johnson from Texas. He's a stud of a player, man. But like I said, I think SEC bias maybe stepping in there, which might ruin my bracket in the end. But oh well. I mean, whoever makes it past around 32 without having some kind of dumb team bust the whole thing up anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Go back to Peyton's, and we're trying to go through this a little bit quicker, but we're in the Midwest now, Peyton. So start with Houston and whoever SIUE is, because I'm not going to act like I know. Let's preview because I'm curious now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the Edwardsville Cougars here. They've got Rayshawn Taylor here, who is an absolute stud. He looks like he's averaging 20 points, and then Brian Taylor as well. Maybe some little brother action here.
Do look alike.
Yeah, it looks like they've had some pretty notable wins here against the Indiana State Sycamores that I'm looking at here, and this is their first time in the tournament, so. I think they're going to make a little bit of noise here, maybe a lot of bit of noise here. Give me Houston by only 20 in this matchup. I think SIUE might put up a little bit more of a fight than people are thinking. So, that being said, we're going to move on to the next matchup here. 8-9 matchup, going to be a tough one, but it's going to be very hard for me to pick against Georgia in this one. So, give me the Bulldogs. They have one of the best players in the tournament this year, and Asai Newell or Asai. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with them. And then next matchup, same with you. I'm going to pick Clemson. I think Clemson's a good team this year, and I think they probably should be higher than 5. And then the High Point versus Purdue. I'm going to take a little look here at High Point. Actually, yeah, I mean. And nothing really stands out to me about High Point. It says they've won 14 straight. They're a good shooting team, but nothing that really sticks out to me that they're going to beat Purdue. So give me the Boilermakers here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take Illinois as well in this matchup between whoever wins between Texas and Xavier. Do not pick Kentucky.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead and pick Kentucky here. I think this is going to be a win over Troy in the first round.
I do want to get you on this just to look.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it, and there's nothing that really screams upset to me. And even like with the matchup, just looking in, Illinois does have Will Riley, who's one of the better players in the tournament, but just, I'm looking at the notable wins between them, and I just see UK at least making it to the Sweet 16 this time around. So a little bit of spoiler there, I guess. And then that being said, Tennessee versus Wofford, I'm just going to go ahead and take Tennessee, and it looks like I skipped UCLA versus Utah State. I'm actually going to take Utah State here, a little 10-7 upset. I just really like what I've seen looking through Utah State. It's their third straight time in the tournament with a third different coach, it says. But, one of those teams that's a little more on offense, and I'm just not really sold on UCLA, to be quite honest, is the reason why I'm going to go ahead and pick Utah State here. So that gives us through the entire round of 64. So how do you want to do this here? Do you want to go straight into round of 32, or what are you thinking?
Let's go through your round of 32 in the South. So starting with Auburn, Louisville.
So starting with Auburn, Louisville, I'm going to go ahead and just take Auburn here. Auburn's one of the best teams in the nation. They're ranked number 1 overall for a reason. And I really, just see them making a pretty good run here. My next matchup here, I'm actually going to stick with the Tridents of San Diego. I'm going to pick them over Texas A&M here. Not that I don't think Texas A&M is a good team or anything. I just feel like San Diego is going to be that Cinderella team this year. I think they're going to make it to the Sweet 16 to ultimately get destroyed by Auburn. So I'm going to pick the Tridents here. And then same thing with Lipscomb and Ole Miss. You know, I think Lipscomb has a chance to be one of those Cinderella teams as well. Unfortunately, both of my Cinderella stories have to be in the same region, but I'm also going to go ahead and pick Lipscomb here. I don't think that it's something that's, out of the ordinary. We talked about them earlier. I think they're a pretty good team. And then round it out, I'm just going to go ahead and take Michigan State, who I have going very deep in this tournament. It's going to be very hard for me to pick against Tom Izzo.
And that's always a hard thing for me, too. Let's see. Going. Let's see if I can get it to mine, hopefully. Yep, that's right. So, very quickly, this is a struggle right here for me. And, actually it's not. I'm going Creighton with the upset over overall Auburn. I want to go Texas A&M over Michigan. Let's see. And
you're going to pick North Carolina here, huh?
You're going to hate me for this, but UNC is going to the Sweet 16.
I knew you were going to do it. We've ran through this part of the bracket so much. You've talked up North Carolina so much, like they're even going to make it into the tournament. Not going to happen. But, San Diego State might come out and surprise us here and save your bracket.
We shall see. Michigan State's easy pick there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go through my West real quick, just moving down the line. I'm going to go Florida. Very easy pick there. I'm going to go, let's scroll down. St. John's is getting there. I'm going to say Drake's going to make it to the Sweet 16. And we're going to take, this one's, I don't know. I think Grand Canyon's run probably stops in the round of 32. So let's go Memphis. And okay, so let's go back to yours. So scrolling down to here. All right, so starting with Florida, Oklahoma for you.
So, for me, I'm going to take Florida. I have Florida going pretty far in this. They've just had so many quality wins over the year. I think they have a really good defense this year, so no brainer there for me. I'm also going to take Maryland here. I think they're going to be a pretty tough team to beat going into the tournament. This matchup here, I'm actually going to take Drake. I think Drake has every bit of what it takes to be one of the Cinderella teams. I know JT Toppin for Texas Tech is going to be, one of the best breakout players this year, but I'm still going to go ahead and take Drake. And then in the battle of the former coaches of UK, I'm going to take St. John's.
So let's talk about your round of 32 picks in the East region, starting with Duke Baylor.
Yeah, so Duke Baylor is an interesting matchup here. BJ Edgecombe versus Cooper Flagg and Constantinople here. I think it could make for an interesting game of basketball. That being said, I do not think Baylor stands a chance against a fully healthy Duke, so give me Duke there. Akron is going to be one of the first of my Cinderella teams to not make it. That's right, I'm going to take Oregon here. I think that should be an easy win for them. That being said, I think VCU's defense is going to carry them over Wisconsin. As I've said earlier, VCU just has one of those tough defenses that can make it hard to score on, especially come tournament time. And, I like that. And then you're already hovering over them, so go ahead and click it in. Alabama is going to beat St. Mary's.
All right, Peyton. And just to go ahead and get you through the Sweet 16, go ahead and do your Midwest for me as well.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and take Houston in this matchup. Not much to talk about here other than the fact that I think Houston is one of the better teams in this tournament. Otherwise, they would not be number one. the matchup between Clemson and Purdue, I'm actually going to take Clemson here. I think Clemson is also one of the better teams in the tournament. I think they have a chance to make a lot of noise. And so I'm going to go ahead and take them there. The Illinois-Kentucky matchup, you really want me to click Kentucky here. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, and like I said, I don't see Illinois beating Kentucky. So give me Kentucky here, and then Tennessee is going to take it over Utah State.
Okay, so let's flip back to my screen's mine. So, let's see. I got some catching up to do. I already done that part. I need to start in the East, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. So, pukes me, but Duke belongs in the Sweet 16. I'm going to go Akron to make it to the Sweet 16.
Okay.
Also going to pick Alabama and as well as Wisconsin. And so moving on down, Houston, easy pick there. Clemson, I think, is something we agreed on here. I really think Clemson is a solid team.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Kentucky and Tennessee. And
we have a lot of the same going into the Sweet 16, it looks like. So if I remember correctly, who do you have here in your Sweet 16?
So I have in Texas A&M, UNC, Michigan State.
Yeah, we have a lot of the same. I have Houston, Clemson, Kentucky, Tennessee, Drake, St. John's, Florida, Maryland, and then Duke, Oregon, and VCU, Alabama. So a lot of the same here. I think I would have went Texas A&M there. Okay, here we go. So we got to the Elite Eight here. Oh, wait, you still got to pick the East here. Okay, I like how I told you to pick Texas A&M as if they're not already eliminated in my bracket. That being said, I think San Diego's run ends here. I think Auburn takes that matchup easy. Same with Michigan State. I think Cinderella stories come to die in the Sweet 16. This matchup here, I'm actually going to take Florida. And then say, actually, let me look at this matchup here. Let's get a little preview. St. John's versus Drake, both 30-win teams. I really like Drake this year, man. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Drake in this matchup. I know that might be a hot take, but St. John's is just so well coached, but Drake just plays so well. I'm just going to pick it and not think too much about it. Same with Tennessee over Kentucky. I'm going to pick Tennessee over Kentucky. Absolutely, I do. And I also realize that it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. So I'm going to pick classic Unk phrase that's almost always true. So I'm going to take Tennessee here. And I'm also going to take Clemson here. Yeah. Yeah, well, they're not making it any further. We're going to unfortunately have the 1 versus 2 on both sides here because I just do not see either of them losing up until this point if they're healthy and playing well. Okay. Since we're already here, I can go ahead and do my Yeah, so this matchup of Auburn versus Michigan State is going to be a dogfight. That being said, I am not going to pick against Tom Izzo in this matchup. I'm going to take Michigan State. I think they're just too well coached and playing too well this year. And as much as I would love to pick Alabama here, I cannot pick against Duke this year. They're just so good, so talented, and they will be in my Final Four. Coming down here, I think this is where the Drake Cinderella story ends. I think they could make it interesting, but I just don't see it happening. I think Florida's going to make it to my Final Four. And I also think, this right here is where you're going to get one of the lower seeds in. I do think that Clemson makes it in over Tennessee. He can't pick Duke. He can't bring himself to do it. Oh, that Kentucky fan bias is coming in hard here. Both of these matchups, I can feel it. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? Shock to absolutely nobody. 189. Both teams would have to score 90 something. Yeah, 94 to 90. What? Dude, that's ridiculous. Yeah, you think? Okay, high scoring affair. Michigan State, not a high scoring team, but okay. Uh, you think Kentucky's going to win 169 to 1? Is that the prediction here? Okay. So I don't see Duke not making it to the final championship game this year. I just don't see it happening. I'm an adamant Duke hater, but they are so good this year. They have I honestly was looking for somebody every step of the way to upset them, and I feel like this East side of the bracket is just so weak compared to the rest of the bracket, to be honest. Dude, that has sealed me more on them because they have looked so dominant without him these past couple games in the tournament that I'm just like, dude, they're unreal. Yeah, it is the ACC, but still, dude, you have the best player in the nation hurt, and you're still able to go out and dominate in the fashion they are. I mean, it's not like they're playing against scrubs like the anteaters. So Michigan State. I'm Tom Izzo guy. I'm a Tom Izzo guy every year. Every time it gets actually, no, I'm gonna take Florida. I I am gonna take Florida. I I they've had some big wins. They've beat up on Alabama all year. They beat Tennessee. I This is a tough matchup for me, but I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to pick Florida, and I'm actually just, you know what? Even though they weren't in my championship game, I'm going to pick Florida to win it all. I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to think twice about it. I really hate the fact that I have two 1 seeds in the final game. Uh, But, that's how it happens. And I think the total score, I think it's going to add up to 115. I think it's going to be grinded out affair. Um, so, yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I would have went through and been like some people I know and picked based off of which mascot I thought was cooler, I probably would end up with a higher score than what I'm going to get. Um, that being said, I did make some picks that in previous years I would not have made. I would not have ever picked UC San Diego in previous years or Lipscomb. Um, I went against my gut a lot this year, which may work out. I don't know. I really don't like having as many higher seeds make it to my Final Four, but that's the name of the game. They're good teams for a reason, and uh, I'm pretty happy with my bracket, all things considered. What do you think about yours? Yeah, when you make 25, you can pick the best one and rename it to say my real bracket and post it on Facebook and say, look, I'm in the top 500,000 brackets in the world or whatever. Um, no, but I think this will be my one bracket this year. I usually make upwards of 20 some, but I'm just going to stick with the one this year. I haven't had much time to do anything other than study the past couple weeks, and it's not looking like there's going to be any change until the end of the month. That being said, I will be trying to catch as much of the games on my phone as possible. Just like old time's sake in high school, just trying to catch a game on the monitor when I can. Um, this is just the best time of the year for any sports fan, and hopefully you guys are as excited as we are. We hope to see a lot of engagement, and yeah. Yeah, well, it's better than a WVU fan. Take it from one. So, it is what it is. NIT bound, baby. I don't either. And there's a lot of people upset about it and crying about it. All I've got to say, and this is coming from a Mountaineer fan, win one game. One game is all you have to win in the Big 12, and you will make it into this tournament, guaranteed. But you go and lose to Colorado in the first game, don't win a single game, and you are the first team out. I was watching when they were releasing the names of the first 4 out, and West Virginia was the first team out. So, that being said, I mean, it is what it is.